Hi everyone, I'm Kevin and this is HFX by Bike, a YouTube channel all about getting around Halifax by bike. I make videos about all the things that make it convenient or not to make trips by bike, but that leaves out something important. Convenient compared to what? There are many ways to get around, and they can vary a lot in terms of convenience, speed, and cost. This is the first in a new series of Sharing the Road videos, where I'll make the same trip around the city 3 ways. Once on bike, once by transit, and once by car. I'll compare each of the trips in terms of the estimated time, financial costs, and general convenience. Note that I'm only going to try to estimate the direct cost of owning and using a car or bike, not any of the social costs. So no accounting for pollution, noise, generating medical costs from accidents, etc. Just the lizard brain direct costs to me as the user. For the first trip, I'll be leaving Spring Garden Road at 5 p.m. and making my way to the NSCC campus on Leeds Street in the far north end of the Halifax Peninsula. This is about a 5-kilometer trip depending on which path is taken. On foot, Google estimates that the trip would take about 54 minutes. For the car trip, I'm going to model all the cost numbers based on a common model on the road today, a 2021 Honda Civic, based on the CAA cost calculator. For the bike, I'll use the Rad Power Bikes Rad Runner model, which is my actual bike. This is way more expensive than a non-electric bike, but I think you'll get the point at the end anyways. I'll list off the various costs of the different modes as we go. Okay, getting started. It's 5 p.m. and I'm leaving Spring Garden Place. In the car, I'm taking the right onto Spring Garden. I have the upfront financial cost of the car modeled on a 5-year lease, which the calculator estimates at $435 a month. Or prorated $14.30 a day before I even turn the key. On bike, I'm about to take a left onto Spring Garden. I'm riding an e-bike and it's pretty common to just pay the total cost up front, but if you prorate the upfront cost over the same period as the car, you end up with about $1 per day to own the bike. Taking transit, I'm going to catch the 7A a few blocks over on South Street. There are a few other options, but they all involve more walking or more transfers, and they don't really get me there any faster. I have a monthly pass, so the daily cost for unlimited rides is $2.70. It's now 5:02. In the car, I'm on Brunswick Street approaching Cogswell. A car can be seen blocking a cyclist in a painted bike lane, because, of course. In addition to the upfront cost of owning the car, it also depreciates in value over time. It's a non-linear process, but based on the calculator, I'll ballpark daily depreciation at about $4.10 per day. Switching to bike, I am about a half block from where I started. I am stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic on Spring Garden. While I sit here, my bike is also depreciating in value, and I've estimated on the same curve that it's about 65 cents per day. For my transit run, I'm currently making my way up South Park Street towards my bus stop. I'm not liable for any depreciation of the bus. By 5:04, I've turned off of Brunswick onto Cornwallis, and I'm now waiting to make an additional turn onto Barrington. Of course, I have to insure the car as well, which runs me about $1,000 per year, and that prorates to $2.40 per day. On bike, I'm finally off of Spring Garden, and I'm making my way up the South Park Street protected bike lanes. My bike is covered by tenant insurance, but I could get supplemental insurance if I really wanted to that's specific to my e-bike. This would run me about $54 a year, or 15 cents per day, regardless of whether I use the bike or not. I'm passing by Victoria Park on the way to the bus stop. I feel pretty good about not having to pay any extra insurance to use transit. It's now 5:06, and by car I am on Barrington approaching the bridge. Cars need to be upkept, and the estimated annual maintenance cost for this model is $650, or $1.78 per day. This scales with how much you drive, but it's probably a good average estimate. On bike, I'm making my way up the Bell Road painted bike lanes, making more progress now that I'm somewhat free of traffic. This is my first year riding a bike, but the maintenance costs so far have been about $100 per year, which prorates out to 27 cents per day. For the transit run, I'm just leaving University Avenue to cut through the hospital parking lot. I don't owe anything for maintenance on the buses. Fast forward, it's now 5:08 and the car is now heading up Devonshire. If you missed it the first time, you can now mark off car parked in a bike lane off your Urbanist bingo card. I was in the office all day, and I had to park the car while I was there. Normally, this would be about $20 per day, but I'm pretty thrifty and I've invested in a monthly pass. That cost drops to $7.30 per day. I'm going to be generous and assume that car me doesn't pay for parking at home, but parking in an apartment usually costs something like $150 a month, which would be an additional $4.90 per day. By bike, I've just entered the Isleville Bikeway, which should be more or less a straight shot to the destination. Parking is generally free on bike, but finding a good spot can be kind of hit or miss depending on where you are in the city. On my transit run, I've arrived at the bus stop and I'm just waiting for the 7 to arrive. Obviously, I don't need to worry about parking when I'm moving around on transit. Jumping ahead again, it's now 5:10 and the car is on Novelty on final approach to the campus. By bike, I'm still on the bikeway, but I've been slowed down by heavy construction. It's going to be affecting the Isleville Bikeway for about the next year or so. And for transit, I'm still waiting for the bus. It's now 5:12 and I've arrived at the campus by car. At current rates, the total fuel cost for this trip was 63 cents. On bike, I'm stuck behind a pair of cars trying to rat run through a construction site. There's entertainment value you just miss out on from a car. And I'm still waiting for that bus, but it shouldn't be far off now. By 5:14, I'm making my way back onto the bikeway after a forced detour onto Agricola. For the transit run, the bus has arrived and I'm just boarding now. Skipping ahead again, it's now 5:16 and on bike I've just passed through the mode filter on Yonge Avenue. I should be clear of any major traffic or construction issues for the rest of the trip, so I can just pedal away. Over on the bus, I've progressed about a half block from the initial stop. There's heavy traffic and we're still on South Street. It's now 5:18 and I'm approaching the end of the bikeway. Just 1 minute later, I arrive at the campus by bike. There is a bit of a fuel cost for making my e-bike run, and when you take into account my trip into work in the morning and this trip that I'm just completing now, at current rates, the cost to power my bike is about a penny if you round up. On the bus, I'm at College Street approaching Spring Garden. The bus is stuck in traffic. Since transit is the only remaining player in this game, I'm going to start to make the time jumps a little bit larger to speed things along. By 5:24, the bus has reached North Street and has started to benefit from the dedicated bus lanes starting at Robie and Quinpool. The bus is now moving noticeably faster without being subject to traffic by motor vehicles. At 5:30, the bus has reached Duffus Street and is now just around the corner from the campus. Another 2 minutes and I'm hopping off the bus, and a short walk, I arrive at the campus at 5:34. Okay, let's do some comparisons. In terms of how long this trip took, the personal vehicles won pretty handily. The car made the trip in 12 minutes and the bike in 18. The transit option took 34 minutes from time of departure, although this does come with a bit of a caveat that if you are relying on transit, you would just schedule your day around it. If transit was your main way of getting around, you would come in or leave early, stay late, or just go do something else between the end of the workday and whenever your transit connection was arriving. This isn't fully exculpatory though. I was actually on the bus for longer than the entire length of the car or bike trips. This is partly an issue with there being relatively long headways and the fact that the buses tend to get stuck in the same traffic as cars during rush hour. Looking at the cost, all of the options other than the car were under $3. The car cost more than 10 times as much to operate as the next most expensive option, which was transit. For both the bike and the car, the majority of the costs stem from upfront financing and depreciation, with maintenance and insurance creating smaller burdens. All of these costs were incurred just by owning the vehicle and only somewhat scale based on how much it gets used. Fuel and parking costs are obviously much larger for the car than the bike. The entire cost of the transit is covered just by the monthly pass. It's a bit of a psychological trap that has implications for how people get around the city. Once you own a car, the marginal cost of using it for any given trip is relatively low. This is going to lead to a lot of aversion to using other modes, since you're already paying for the car, you might as well use it at that point. Thinking about it pragmatically, the cost gradient between owning a car and every other means of getting around is pretty ridiculous. Probably the best strategy would be flexibility, using something like the bike when possible and switching to other modes when the weather or other factors make that less desirable. That could mean transit, but it could also mean something like a car share. It would depend on the plan, but today's trip would work out to something like $5.20 by car share, and probably only be a little bit slower than actually just owning the car itself. You could even just use a cab or a rideshare for something like $12 to $15 at rush hour for this kind of trip, and still come out ahead relative to owning a car. By using a bike, or to a lesser degree transit, to get around when you can, you save enough money to use other, more expensive means of getting around when you really need to. On net, you still end up saving money depending on how frequently you rely on a car or rideshares, and with pretty minimal drop in convenience. Just some food for thought. That's all I've got for this week. If this kind of thing interests you, please like and subscribe. If you want to see more comparisons of different ways of getting around, like over longer distances, let me know and I'll add it to the schedule. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.